Hello, everyone, and welcome to another CNN Weekly Recap. We're getting towards the end of the summer stage and the end of the season, and not a lot of news has been on the horizon. So let's just get through this one quickly. It shouldn't be too long of one. We had Yao Shi getting signed as an assistant coach. I hope I didn't absolutely butcher that. I probably did. Cool that Spark is still trying to add people. They've had a lot of changes throughout this season, trying to find what works for them. But Hangzhou Spark, as much as they've been good, haven't been as dominant, as we would have expected them considering the lineup. The only other real news that happened recently is Season 6 is around the corner. So Invasion is coming. We have the story missions. We have Hero Mastery. We have a new hero coming out. All this type of stuff. There's been a lot of leaks coming out. Overwatch is heading over to Steam. Lots of interesting things that are going to be happening very soon. So keep an eye out for that. There was a leak. Well, it wasn't really a leak. I believe it was posted by Mike Ibarra, who's like a very high up person in Activision Blizzard. Posted this picture. So we get to see some of the skins. Obviously, like people saying Mythic Ana skin, which looks pretty sick. Getting some cool skins. Like this looks like Genji. I don't know who that is over here. Is that a Cassidy skin? But yeah, it's kind of like a robot themed skin, but it looks pretty cool. I'm excited for Season 6. You should be as well. So we'll see. But that's it. That's all the news. So let's just talk about what happened in the last week over the weekend. We had some interesting matches on both sides. Let's start with the West. The Los Angeles Gladiators are in full Gladiators mode, and now we're starting to have fears that they might not even make it to the actual knockouts for the playoffs at the very end of the season. And I'm going to talk about that after we finish our Pickems. But Gladiators really struggling. On the other hand, London Spitfire with the one-tricking Reinhardt style going to the moon. Stocks are up, power of friendship back on the menu. London Spitfire really just making it work playing Reinhardt to the point that other teams are starting to follow suit. We saw Florida Mayhem utilize it themselves and have a lot of success. So big props to London Spitfire. It's good to see them back, winning games and sort of playing their own style. At Boston Uprising beating the Los Angeles Valiant, they're just a better team, especially when they can play that Tracer Sombra. Very strong at that one. Atlanta Reign versus Florida Mayhem. Atlanta Reign lost. We actually did a VOD review of this one. If you haven't checked it out, make sure to check it out. But Florida, with their flexibility, able to play the Reinhardt as I spoke about, while also being able to play the Winston, they can really do it all right now. And that's such a huge boon, while Atlanta Reign showing that they only really have that level of dominance playing the Winston Tracer Sombra, which isn't as effective this stage. Atlanta Reign is definitely not down and out, but they have shown that they can lose. This is their second loss of the season, second loss in about 2 weeks, as they lost to the Houston Outlaws very recently as well. Vancouver Titans versus Washington Justice. Vancouver have been looking much better. Heesang has become a very different player than he was on the San Francisco Shock. Heesang has just stepped in a big way. Sugar Free has been able to show his flexibility regarding that as well. While the Washington Justice just really feels like they've taken a bunch of steps backwards. Really struggling with some issues. We had Ben Best on Ana for whatever reason on map 3. Get Amaze came out in a bunch of tweets sort of defending the decision of Donghan was been playing on ping, has been dealing with some issues so far. So they wanted to just sort of make him feel comfortable. Donghan, I don't think was a big issue when he was playing in the first 2 maps. Definitely the map 3 choice of putting Ben Best on Ana did not work, and it raised a lot more questions and alarm bells than I think it did of like everyone just being like, oh, they're just throwing anything at the wall. So it's cool to see Vancouver Titans playing well though. Boston Uprising versus the Atlanta Reign. This was actually a pretty close series. Atlanta Reign much better in the Tracer Sombra, but Boston Uprising, they showed that they can try other things. They played like a bunch of Junker Queen here on Circa Royale, and then they probably should have closed out Coliseo as well. Just some questionable ult usage in the last minute or so of that Coliseo that ended up losing them that map. But anything could have happened if we went to map 5. Because Atlanta Reign, as you said, they haven't looked as strong on maps that they can't play the Tracer Sombra. Unfortunately for Boston, they can't play anything other than the Tracer Sombra either. We then had the Toilet Bowl. Had a VOD review of this one as well up on the YouTube channel. Check that out. But the Valiant took down the Vegas Eternal 3-2 in a map 5 toilet bowl banger. Eternal deciding to sub out Knife and put in Dove for maps 3 and 4, and it ended up just being a bad choice. They should never take Finale or Knife out of the lineup if I'm giving free advice to the Vegas Eternal. They're just two of your best players. They absolutely dominated in the first 2 maps. Valiant really shouldn't have had any opportunity to win this series, but they got the opportunity and they ended up closing out in map 5, as Valiant always seems to do. So cool to see Valiant get another win, but the elusive Eternal win has yet to be found, and they only have 4 matches to do it, and they got some tough ones coming up. They play Shock twice, Houston once, and shoot, what was the last one that I'm forgetting? Someone in chat will catch up with me and remind me in just a second. Then we had Florida Mayhem take down Washington Justice, and this was not close. Florida Mayhem are much better. Boston was the other team that the Vegas Eternal have to beat, so that's hard. That's hard. Florida Mayhem better than Washington Justice. Not much to speak to there. Florida are the best team in the West right now, and the best team in the world. London Spitfire were also able to take down Vegas Eternal, playing their Reinhardt Rush. No one has really came up with a solution to beat this London Spitfire Reinhardt. You know, it's one of those classics of like, when will people start working out how to beat it? But it looks kind of difficult to play against. Winston Dive doesn't work on some of these maps. All these other compositions like Ramatra, London have shown that they know how to beat them. I don't think Reinhardt Rush is the best meta or the best comp to play everywhere, but London Spitfire, it works for them. How long will it work for? They haven't beaten too many great teams. Like obviously London Spitfire, we speak about their success over the last couple of weeks, but let's remember, they beat Vegas Eternal, Los Angeles Gladiators, then they beat Los Angeles Valiant and the San Francisco Shock, right? The only team in there that really is quite good right now, or like middle of the pack, is the San Francisco Shock. So we don't really know if what London Spitfire are doing is going to work at a higher level. And as we head into knockouts, we'll have to see if that's what London Spitfire stick to with the meta changing in Season 6. And then the Gladiators also lost 3-0 to the Vancouver Titans. Gladiators. I think it's worth noting, Vancouver Titans look really strong right now. And they actually look quite comfortable. Excited to see how far this team can go and what their peak actually is. All right, East Region. We go over here. Jack and I casted a bunch of games. Dallas Fuel beat the Soul Infernal 3-0. This series was actually quite closer than 3-0 would suggest. Soul Infernal actually held Dallas Fuel on maps 2 and map 3. Soul Infernal held Dallas Fuel on both of those maps on second point, on Dorado and Midtown, but Dallas Fuel held them on second point that little bit better. So Dallas Fuel really just holding on for dear life. Some mistakes from Soul Infernal. Their EMP usage was kind of sussy at times, but Dallas Fuel proving they're the best team in the East right now. They look good in the Winston Tracer Sombra Dive. Looks like they've actually practiced it. It still doesn't look great. I think if either Soul Infernal or Dallas Fuel went up against the top end teams of the West right now, it wouldn't be pretty, but that doesn't discredit the fact that Dallas Fuel are the best in the East. Dreamers played Soul Dynasty. I'm pretty sure we don't have the proper scores up here because for whatever reasons it doesn't update, but I'm pretty sure Soul Dynasty won this map in map 5. Actually, I know that they won this in map 5. We had Bellis Rhea dropping the hammer on Dreamers in the map 5 on Li Zhang, and Prophet went crazy on the Tracer. Like, Soul Dynasty do not win this series, not even close, if Prophet doesn't go sicko mode towards the end. So big props to Prophet keeping them in, and Bellis Rhea to be able to sort of get them across the line at the very end. Let me just sort of pull up the actual results from this weekend for the East so that we don't have to just like respond on my memory. So yeah, and then we had Hongzhou Spark beating Pokerface. Pokerface just don't look very good, especially with the loss of Finale. Like, Pokerface, they kind of were dependent on having Valentine and Victoria, and they would sub them in based on when Finale was in. And without that, they just kind of look a little lost, and Hongzhou Spark beat them quite convincingly. Then we had Dreamers beat O2 Blast 3-0. O2 Blast, they have Prophet on the Ash, and they want to play Hitscan, and they have, what's his name? God, what's the O2 Blast tank's name? O2 Blast, Wikipedia. I'm trying to think of his name. Protect. He's kind of like stuck wanting to play these off-tank heroes, but it just doesn't work. Like, you kind of need to play Winston at some point and some of these maps, and they just have an unwillingness to do it. So they want to play like a diva hit scan, and it just looks real bad. This is another team that's been gutted. Like, O2 Blast has cultivated talent for so long, so it feels pretty bad that it feels like they've just been drained completely dry, and they don't have a roster that can compete with even some of the other contenders teams at this point. Dallas Fuel took down Guangzhou Charge. Charge actually took a map. This was the first time we got to see the Jinmu sort of iteration of the Charge. It is, Gaga, Jinmu, Jimmy. Like, it's kind of like old Chengdu, and we even got a flash of that on Midtown when Jinmu just sort of switched to Farah, just without a mercy at some point on Midtown, and it was kind of like a blast from the past. But Charge actually looked pretty good in the Winston Tracer Sombra on the map that they won, which was a Brood 66 if they just played it straight up, but they definitely look like a shell of what Guangzhou Charge were in the spring stage. It does feel like a Chengdu victory lap more than anything for watching the Guangzhou Charge right now. Soul Infernal beat Panthera, pretty cut and dry. Soul Infernal are just better than Panthera. Shanghai Dragons, woes are continuing. Hangzhou Spark took down Shanghai Dragons. I don't remember this match. I don't know if I've seen this one, so I can't really speak to this one that much. And then Panthera also beating down on O2 Blast. Panthera, they're looking pretty good. But O2 Blast is currently the worst team in the East. And it was close. All right, there you go. Seoul Dynasty beat down Pokerface. Same issues that I talked about with Pokerface earlier. And Seoul Dynasty are starting to get some of these wins on the board. Then Shanghai Dragons also having their way with the Guangzhou Charge. So that was the games in the East. That's pretty much everything that's been going on for this weekend. Let me actually pull up, let's actually go to the standings, because there's actually some interesting things to note here, especially in the West. Where am I looking? Standings. So we're actually just talking about this in the West. It's worth noting, so the top 3 in the West will automatically qualify for the grand finals. So right now, it looks like it's going to be Atlanta Reign and Florida Mayhem for sure. They have 2 matches left. They're at 12-2. They're likely to make it. The last spot is between Houston Outlaws and Boston Uprising. Houston has 2 more matches to be played than Boston. So they're at 9-3, 12 matches. Boston Uprising is 10-4 at 14 matches. So it's likely that Houston end up closing out and winning the last few matches and end up taking that number 1 spot, especially when you consider the map differential. Houston has a pretty easy schedule, if I remember correctly. Let me just pull it up for you guys here. So their schedule for the last 4 matches, you're going to have to see behind chat here, but they play Toronto, Gladiators, Vegas, and London. You would assume that the Gladiators and the Vegas matches are pretty cut and dry. They should win those easily. Toronto, they should definitely be better than. And then we don't know what to expect in 4 weeks when they play against London in a new patch. But you would assume the top 3 is going to be Atlanta, Florida, and Houston, with Boston Uprising just missing out. But then there's a huge gap between 4 and 5. So also in the West, the bottom 3 teams don't even qualify for the knockout, so they won't get an opportunity to play and even compete for the playoffs. Valiant and the Vegas Eternal have already completely lost out. Vegas only have 4 matches remaining, so best they could go is 4-12. They're not going to be able to get up to the 5, even if Gladiators lose out, or any of these teams. Valiant also, they've actually played 14 of their matches, so they only have 2 more matches to win, so the most wins they can get is 4. So Valiant and Eternal are completely knocked out of the knockouts, as far as I'm aware, unless there's some weird ruling. Where it gets interesting is, in the past, a lot of us just assumed that London Spitfire were going to take that 3rd spot at the bottom, but they're actually 6-8 now. They're actually rocketed up the standings. So obviously they've played 2 more matches than most of these teams, but there is a chance that one of these last 3 teams could lose out the rest of their matches. And if you're a Gladiators fan, you probably want to be the one to look away, because it looks most likely it's going to be the Gladiators. Gladiators have to play Houston Outlaws and the Boston Uprising in their 2 of their last 4 matches. And then they play New York Excelsior twice. Once before the patch comes in and once after the patch comes in. So if you're a Gladiators fan, you have to hope that you get better than New York Excelsior in this short amount of time, which isn't out of the realm of this realm. New York look quite solid right now, but Gladiators, they have a good roster. Things could turn around. You never know. But right now, that's looking kind of sus. The other 2 teams that, if they also lose out, could lose their position and end up at the bottom is Toronto Defiant and the Washington Justice. Funnily enough, just to add in here. Washington Justice, I got to type it all the way through. Toronto and Washington play each other twice in this next one. One before the patch, one after the patch. But Washington also plays Atlanta and New York. So Washington also has the opportunity to lose out. Toronto plays Houston, Washington, Vancouver, and Washington again. So there's possibility for all three of these teams to lose out, but they can't all lose out to each other. So they can't have multiple people ending up losing out. So someone's going to win something. We'll have to see who it is. We'll keep an eye on it as the weeks go on, but just sort of giving you an idea of what goes on in the West. I don't really know how the playoff qualification is working in the East. I don't know. I don't really know what's going on here for like the play-ins and the East playoffs. It's incredibly convoluted. I believe Matt tried to explain it in a Reddit thread, and I couldn't understand it. So I feel like there's probably, it's like two big brackets, and then there's seeding based off of it. Something like that. There's going to be a knockouts, I think, with all of the teams. I don't think there's an automatic qualification for any of the East teams, but then they're going to go into their own double elimination bracket, and then 3 teams will come out at the end or something like that. Yeah, seeding is based off the summer stage, but I believe it's also based... I thought seeding was based off the summer stage, but also your spring stage. There's something weird about it. I don't feel confident enough in understanding it to be able to explain it to you. I'm sure it'll become clearer as we get closer to it, and hopefully some people at the Overwatch League can clarify that for us. Let's do our power rankings and let's move on. Florida Mayhem absolutely deserve to be at the top tier. I'm actually going to put them at number 1 right now. As much as I believe that the Atlanta Reign or Houston Outlaws, I have confidence in them as we go into a new patch that they will feel comfortable. Right now, you can't make an argument that Florida Mayhem don't deserve to be here. You could justify putting Houston above Atlanta. It's weird because we didn't say Houston play this week. If we saw Houston play this weekend and they 2-0'd, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. But it feels a little wild to do it. But fuck it. You know, Houston have been at number 1 for too damn long. Let's see how they feel now they got a fire under their ass. I'm gonna put Boston in this tier as well. I'm gonna put them all here, the top 4. I think Boston, you could potentially put a tier break like here, but then I would need to put another tier break here. That just feels weird. So let's just go there. Let's just do that. And then we got to work out the rest of these teams. So London Spitfire have proven that they can be up here. I think we're going to have a tier break here. Actually, no. I think Gladiators go down here in this bottom tier break. I think I'm going to put Washington at the bottom. London beat the Shock. And I actually really like the way the London Spitfire... Because remember, these power rankings are how our team's playing right now. So I think London Spitfire deserve to move up. Vancouver... Dude, we haven't seen Excelsior play this weekend, so... Have these teams played each other? Toronto, Vancouver, New York? Below Vegas? I'm not putting Gladiators below Vegas. Let's go back to... Let's see what we got here from Vancouver. Vancouver lost to Toronto. Obviously, this is a couple of weeks ago now. I think I'm happy with this. I think Toronto, Vancouver, New York Excelsior, London Spitfire, Shock, Washington. I don't want to push London too far up until I see them beat one of these teams, right? Or like beat a better team. Because as I said, they've kind of been beating up on the teams below them. Glabs will lose to Vegas, and I will believe it when I see it. But I am not putting Glads below a team that is currently 0-12. I can't do it, chat. I understand there's a rebuild. I understand I could be brave, but I'm not brave enough. I can't do it to myself. So let's do the East Power rankings. Let's go Soul Infernal, Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel and Soul Infernal are in a tier above everyone else. Then we got Shanghai Dragons, Seoul Dynasty. Did Seoul beat Hangzhou? Why do I feel like... Or did Seoul lose to Hangzhou? I'm trying to remember what happened because Seoul's decided that they don't want to make any sense ever. Oh, actually, I don't. Is this even updated now? It is. Okay. Seoul beat Hangzhou. So I think Seoul goes above Hangzhou, then Shanghai, and then I'm going to put Chengdu Hunters / the Guangzhou Charge. But I'm just going to put Chengdu Hunters because I think it's funny. So Dallas Fuel and Seoul Infernal, and then I think Seoul Dynasty, Hangzhou Spark, Shanghai Dragons, and Chengdu Hunters. The circle of suck kind of goes around here. Seoul, perfect. Chengdu ahead of Guangzhou. Yeah. There we go. The Chengdu Hunters, aka the Guangzhou Charge. And that's going to be my power rankings for this week. East is obviously a little weird. I don't want to put the contenders teams in here right now. I don't think there is a single contenders team that has the potential to even matter going into these playoffs. The only one is Dreamers, which is potential, and I think Dreamers, they actually look like a good team. I'd put Dreamers in this like circle right here. I think they'd probably go, there's a potential they'd go above Chengdu / Guangzhou, but yeah. The Dreamers is the only one that's really fighting it for it, but I'm not doing a whole power rankings just to put Dreamers in there. All right, let's go back to our Pickems and let's do our Pickems for this week. So let's close a couple of these tabs. Blah. So what do you got? West, Houston Outlaws versus Toronto Defiant. I'm going to give Toronto a map, but I think Houston have been looking good so far this tournament. Gladiators versus New York Excelsior. I think New York Excelsior wins. How boom do we think the Gladiators are? Are we going a 3-0 for New York Excelsior? It comes down to how boomed we think the Gladiators are. If we think the Gladiators can turn it around. I actually like how New York have been playing. I'll give Glads a map. We'll give them a Kevster map. Vegas Eternal versus Vancouver Titans. I think Vancouver's going to beat them. I'll give Vegas a map. Either the knife. No, actually, I'm not going to give Vegas a map. I think Vancouver wins this 3-0. Houston Outlaws versus Gladiators. That's a 3-0. That's for sure. Washington Justice versus New York Excelsior. I think New York wins this over Washington. I'm going to give Washington a map. Like a map where like Alpha Yi and Flora come alive. Vancouver versus Shock. Ooh. Chat, what do we think? Shock or Titans? Oh, that's true. He's saying versus his old team. Titans 3-2. I think Shock choke in map 5. Titans 3-2. I agree with that. I agree with you guys. Toronto versus Washington Justice. Toronto 3-1. Then Shock are going to 3-1 Vegas Eternal. As I said, I'm not giving Vegas the benefit of the doubt until they prove to me that they're going to do the right thing. We go over to the East region. It's not meow, bro. Guangzhou Charge versus Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty win 3. Dude, I think it's going to be 3-2 because this is a classic map where Seoul, it's way closer than it should be, but Seoul end up like pulling through at the very end. Poker Face versus Panthera. I didn't really like what I saw from Poker Face this weekend, so I'm going to go 3-1 Panthera. Seoul Infernal versus Shanghai Dragons. 3. Oh, I'll give Shanghai a map. We'll give them a Viper map. Seoul Infernal versus Seoul Dynasty. 3. I think... All right, I'm actually going to go for Seoul Dynasty here because I'm pretty sure Seoul Infernal haven't beaten Seoul Dynasty this year. And I think I'm right about that. Played matches. Let me look this up. Oh, they've only played once? Oh, wow. I thought they had played more than once. Do we really commit to this? Is the opening game of the season APAC? No. Yeah, I actually don't feel confident about it. I thought it was going to be... I'm going to go 3-1 Seoul Infernal. I agree. Infernal is better, but this felt like an APAC kind of vibe. Dallas Fuel versus Hangzhou Spark. I actually think this might be the first time Dallas properly gets challenged. Like, well, so they got challenged by Seoul Infernal, but I don't trust Hangzhou Spark as far as I can throw them. Then we got O2 Blast versus Pokerface. I think O2 Blast suck right now. I'll give O2 Blast the map though, because Pokerface are also struggling. I think Dreamers beat Guangzhou Charge 3-1. I think Guangzhou is going to try and play Farah versus the Reinhardt of Dreamers. It could work, but I don't expect it to. Dallas Fuel are going to 3-0 Panthera. Hangzhou Spark are going to 3... Holy 3-1 Preds. That is true. There's a lot of 3-1 Preds. All right, we'll go to map 5 then for that one. All right, we feel better about that. Dreamers are better. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I think Guangzhou are gonna play like some fucked up shit, and I think it'll be a banger of a match. Probably not. I think Hangzhou are gonna beat Dreamers 3-2. And Shanghai Dragons 3-0 O2 Blast. And that is my APAC predictions and my predictions for the week. Let's make sure I save these. All right, guys. That is my preds for the week. It was a pretty short video, pretty short week, but we'll be back. This is our last weekend of matches before we have a 2-week break when the Season 6 patch comes out and the teams get 2 weeks to practice and get ready for the playoffs. Everything should hopefully change. We're going to see a new hero coming in. We're going to see a massive balance patch. That always happens at the start of a season. Hopefully, we don't see Sombra anymore and everything changes and it makes it really hype for the playoffs. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time.